Welcome to the county's Housing Element Workshop. We're going to get started in just a couple of moments, but we're going to let a few more folks trickle in. But thanks for joining us. Again, welcome to the county's Housing Element Workshop. This is our second of two workshops. We're going to get started in just a couple of moments. For those of you just now joining us, this is the county's Housing Element Workshop. We're going to get started in a few moments, but we're going to give folks just another moment to trickle in. Welcome again to the Housing Element Workshop for Sacramento County. We're just going to give the participants another couple of moments to join us. Thank you for joining us today. Okay, let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Housing Element Workshop. My name is Kate Rose. I'm an associate planner with the Office of Planning and Environmental Review. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today to learn about Sacramento County's 2021 through 2029 housing element and to provide your feedback. We know that it's a difficult time for many, and we appreciate that you're spending your afternoon with us. Next slide, please. We are fortunate to have an interpreter with us today. Her name is Maria Martin. This slide has instructions to switch to the Spanish language. For desktop users, click Interpretation, select the language, and click Mute Original Audio to only hear Spanish translation. For smartphone users, tap More, tap Language Interpretation, select the language, and then tap the toggle to mute original audio. Next slide, please. This is a Zoom webinar and it is being recorded. We can see your name as a participant, but we can't see or hear you. Please type all questions into the Q&A box. Answers will either be provided in the Q&A box or will be answered directly by one of the presenters. If you are calling into this webinar from a phone, you can access a version of this presentation online by going to a shortened URL, bit.ly, that's bit.ly/Sac County Housing Element. You can also get there by navigating to the Sacramento County Planning and Environmental Review webpage at planning.saccounty.net and clicking on the 2021-2029 Housing Element Update under What's New. Next slide, please. During today's workshop, we'll cover the following topics: introductions, project overview and existing housing needs based on findings from the Housing Needs Assessment, projected housing needs, key policy topics that we'd like your feedback on, including number 1, affordable housing requirements, number 2, tenant protections, and number 3, missing middle housing and ADUs, and also timeline for the project and next steps. We will take breaks in between each section of the presentation to answer questions, and we will also have interactive polls to get your feedback throughout the presentation. We expect that the workshop will take about an hour or an hour and a half, depending on how many questions you have. I'd also like to note here that by registering and attending this meeting, your name has been entered into a gift card giveaway. We will announce winners after the Q&A portion, at the end of the presentation before the final Q&A. I'd like to kick us off with a couple of introductions. My name is Kate Rose. Again, I'm an associate planner with the Office of Planning and Environmental Review. I'll be presenting the Sacramento County 2021 through 2029 Housing Element Workshop today. But also with me are several members of the Housing Element team. I'd like to let them introduce themselves, starting with Sacramento County team members. Leanne, could you introduce yourself with your name and your role in the project, please?
Hi, my name is Leanne Mueller, and I am assisting Kate in the housing element, and I'm also working on the inventory. Thank you.
Christy, could you introduce yourself next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Christy Gravo. I'm also an associate planner with Sac County, and my role in this project is the public outreach effort.
Great. Next, I'd like to introduce our peers with Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency, or SHRA. Susan, could you introduce yourself next?
Sure. Thanks, Kate. I'm Susan Vesey with Sacramento Housing Redevelopment Agency, and we administer the county's housing funds for affordable housing. And so we provide technical assistance in their housing policy and housing element programs.
Thank you, Susan. Next up, I'd like to introduce the team members from Ascent Environmental who are assisting us with this project. Chelsea, could you introduce yourself next?
Sure, thanks, Kate. My name is Chelsea Payne. I'm Director of Urban Design and Planning with Ascent, and I'm assisting the county providing guidance and peer review, ensuring compliance with state law requirements. I'm also working with other jurisdictions within this region, including the City of Sacramento, the City of Folsom, and Placer County on their housing elements.
Great, thank you, Chelsea. Tracy, would you like to please introduce yourself?
Sure, my name's Tracy Perbella. I'm also with Ascent, and I am providing help with Zoom today. So if you're having any problems with the presentation, you can submit a question into the question box and I will respond if there's a technical issue.
Great, thanks all. Next slide, please. So I'd like to hand the presentation over to Christy for our first polling exercise.
Great, thank you, Kate. So we have a couple questions we'd like to ask to give us a better understanding of who's participating today. If you're watching a recording of this presentation or joining us by phone, please fill out the survey located on the Housing Element webpage. The first question we'd like to ask is, which Sacramento County community do you live in? And you have the following options. The first is unincorporated county, and that would include the 14 communities such as Antelope or Vineyard, those kind of communities. Another option is unincorporated cities, which are like the city of Sacramento, Elk Grove, Rancho Cordova. And the last option is other. Next, we like to ask, do you rent or own your own home? And the answers you can answer with are rent, own, or other. You can answer other if you are staying with friends or family, but you're not on the lease, staying in a shelter or other temporary housing situations, camping or sleeping in a car, or experiencing homelessness. The next question we like to ask is, how did you hear about this meeting? You can answer with social media, email, a friend, or other. And the last question on the slide is that we would like to ask is, have you ever heard of a housing element? Please note that there is no wrong answer here, and the options you can answer with is yes or no. And after submitting or selecting your answer, go ahead and hit the submit button on the bottom of the polling window, and let's wait for some responses. Let's do 10 more seconds left, 10-second warning. Great, I'll go ahead and share what we saw or what the results were. So with the first question, which is which Sacramento County community do you live in? 11% are from the unincorporated county, 61% is from the incorporated cities, and 28% are from other. The second one is, do you rent or own your own home? 28% rent, 50% own, and 22% are other. How did you hear about this meeting? 11% heard it on social media, 44% is by email, 6% is by a friend, and 39% is other. And last question is if you've ever heard of a housing element, and 89% say yes. That's great. 11% say no, and that's awesome too. So I'm glad to have you guys all here. I'll go ahead and pass this back to Kate. You guys will see me again.
Thanks, Christy. Awesome. Next slide. We're going to get started with an overview of the housing element and the existing housing needs in Sacramento County. Next slide. A housing element is one of the 8 elements that California law requires us to include in our general plans. State housing law requires cities and counties to use the housing element to plan to meet the housing needs of all income groups. The county's housing element update will cover an 8-year period of 2021 through 2029. The housing element is the only element which must be certified by the state. We must report to the County Board of Supervisors as well as the state annually on our progress toward meeting housing element goals. The county's housing element will cover all the unincorporated areas of the county only. Other cities and counties within the region will be updating their own housing elements too, because many of us are on the same 8-year cycle. The purpose of the housing element is to identify and analyze existing and projected housing needs for all income groups, and to include goals, policies, and programs to address the identified needs. We must also provide enough new sites for new housing development to occur during the 2021 through 2029 period. Next slide. During this workshop, we'll be talking a lot about household income levels and affordable housing. So we wanted to start by defining some of these terms. By federal definition, moderate income means less than 120% of the area median income. Low income means less than 80% of the area median income. Very low means less than 50%, and extremely low means less than 30%. As you can see from this table, people in these income categories hold a wide variety of jobs in Sacramento County. People in the moderate income category may be teachers. People in the low income category may work in healthcare. People in the very low income category may work in personal care or as farm workers. The table notes that households in the extremely low income category are typically those on fixed incomes, such as Social Security or disability. However, this table assumes a household of a single person. So if a person in the low income category is responsible for other family members, they could actually fall into the extremely low income category because they are supporting more than just themselves on their earnings. Many people in these jobs will have been hit hard by the coronavirus pandemic and may be even less likely to be able to afford housing than prior to the pandemic. And it's uncertain when these impacts may subside. The county is obligated to prepare a housing element which addresses the needs of all income groups. Next slide. This bar chart displays the 2020 median home sales price of $366,700 versus the price that households in the extremely low, very low, and low income categories can afford. For an extremely low income household of 4, the difference between the median home sales price and an affordable price is about $250,000. For a very low income household of 4, the difference is about $180,000. And for a low income household of 4, the difference is about $70,000. This bar chart was created using Zillow sales data for the whole county, including the incorporated cities, and using the standard rule of thumb that no more than 30% of your income should be spent toward your housing. Next slide. This bar chart displays the 2020 median rent of $1,913 versus the price that households in the extremely low, very low, and low income categories can afford. For an extremely low income household of 4, the difference between the median rent and an affordable rent is about $1,200 per month. For a very low income household of 4, the difference is about $800 per month. And for a low income household of 4, the difference is about $180 per month. So while Sacramento has been hailed as relatively affordable when compared to the rest of the state, we can see through these graphs that it is not affordable to lower income level households. This issue will be greatly exacerbated by the coronavirus pandemic. Next slide. This slide depicts the housing cost burden for residents of Sacramento County. We consider households spending more than 30% of their gross income on housing to be cost burdened. Housing costs include monthly rent and utilities, mortgage payments, and taxes. We found that 40% of all households, including owners and renters, in Sacramento County are paying more than 30% of their income on housing. Next slide. The housing cost burden trend is stronger for renters in Sacramento County. 54% of renter households are paying more than 30% of their income on housing. Next slide. Again, this trend is even stronger for lower income renter households, 73% of which are paying more than 30% of their income on housing. Next slide. As we'll discuss later during the presentation, it's important to have a mix of housing types in order to provide housing for all income levels. This slide shows a snapshot of data on the county's housing stock from a couple of years ago. About 71% of the county's existing housing stock is single-family housing. 26% is multifamily, such as duplexes or apartments, and a small amount, or 3%, are mobile or manufactured homes. Next slide. Here's a breakdown of multifamily housing stock by Sacramento County community. The Arden Arcade community had the largest percentage of multifamily stock at 42%. The next highest percentage is North Highlands Foothill Farms with 29%, followed by Carmichael with 26%. The Fair Oaks, Antelope, and South Sacramento communities each have a slightly lower percentage of multifamily housing, between 9 and 18%. While more rural communities like Vineyard and Rio Linda, Alberta, have a much smaller percentage of multifamily housing. Next slide. I'd like to pause here and ask if anyone has any questions based on the information that I've presented so far. Again, we'll be using the Q&A box to respond to questions. Okay, no questions yet. We'll go ahead and move forward, but we'll still keep an eye on the Q&A box in case any come up. Next, we'll go over the projected housing needs in Sacramento County for the 8-year planning period. Next slide. The housing element is the county's plan for meeting its fair share of the regional housing need. This process is called the Regional Housing Needs Assessment, RHNA, and it starts at the state level with the Department of Housing and Community Development calculating the overall future housing needs for each region in the state over the planning period. The Regional Council of Governments within each region must then develop a methodology to distribute that overall regional housing need among all of the cities and the counties within the region. In our case, the regional agency is Sacramento Area Council of Governments, or SACOG. SACOG was responsible for distributing a total of 153,512 units throughout their 6-county region. Sacramento County is responsible for a total of 21,272 units. Next slide. This table shows the total unit allocation of 21,272 broken down by income category. For above moderate income, from above moderate income to moderate income and lower income. And the lower income includes low, very low, and extremely low incomes. The county must plan to accommodate 9,928 units for above moderate income, 4,186 units for moderate income, and 7,158 units for lower income levels. It is important to note that the county is not responsible for building the 21,272 units because the county isn't a housing developer. However, the county must demonstrate that it can accommodate the units for each income category throughout the 8-year planning period. We accomplish this through zoning. We assume that the higher the density, the more affordable the housing will be. So we need higher density zone sites in order to provide housing that is affordable to lower income households. We have an illustration of densities on the next slide. Next slide, please. This slide shows a range of housing types and anticipated affordability levels. On the above moderate income end of the spectrum, we have low density housing types like large lot and small lot single family homes. There are many zoning districts in the county which allow for these uses. On the other end of the spectrum, we have product types that may be affordable to lower income households like mobile or manufactured homes and multifamily housing developments, which tend to range between 20 to 30 dwelling units per acre in the county. The most common zoning districts that allow for these uses are called multiple family residential, or RD20 and RD30. In the middle of the spectrum, there are product types that may be affordable to moderate income households, like townhomes, duplexes, and accessory dwelling units. The densities of moderate income product types tend to be between 10 to 15 dwelling units per acre in the county. These are zoning districts RD10 and RD15. Land that is zoned for single-family homes is assumed to meet the above moderate housing need. Land that is zoned for uses like duplexes and townhomes is assumed to meet the moderate income need. while land that is zoned for high density multifamily housing like apartments is assumed to meet the lower income need. Next slide, please. In order to demonstrate that the county has adequate capacity for new housing to meet the RHNA requirement, we must prepare a sites inventory. We can use vacant sites that we've used for previous housing elements. We have specifically included a program to do this. That way we can keep using the sites that were previously identified but not built on. We can use appropriately zoned but underutilized sites, or for example, sites with large surface parking lots on them but no other buildings. We can use commercially zoned sites because we allow multifamily housing as a use by right in several of these zoning districts. We can also use the high density zoned land in some of the master plan communities that the county has approved, like the Mather South Community Master Plan. But we can only include those parcels which we expect to develop within the 8-year planning period. When we take into account all of these areas that we can include, we are still short of the RHNA requirement for lower income and moderate income sites. We estimate that the county will need to rezone between 75 and 100 acres in order to meet this need. Next slide. We are planning to meet the remaining need by rezoning land to RD30 to allow 30 dwelling units per acre. This is because 30 dwelling units per acre is the county's default density, or the minimum density allowed by the state to meet our lower income RHNA needs. We will also amend the zoning code to increase the allowable densities of other multifamily zoning districts, such as RD20, to 30 dwelling units per acre. When we consider sites to rezone to RD30, we have to ensure that they meet certain size and infrastructure requirements. In particular, sites can't be too small or too large, as this would impact their ability to develop for residential uses. Sites must have access to infrastructure like water, sewer, dry utilities, and services like bus, light rail, employment centers, and parks. These requirements are intended to ensure that affordable sites in our RHNA are in areas with amenities and services and are large enough to accommodate quality developments. We don't want multifamily sites in isolated areas where tenants don't have access to services. We must also focus on areas called opportunity areas or high resource areas. We will provide more information on opportunity areas in a couple more slides. Next slide. This slide has images of the elevation plans for 2 projects in Sacramento County. These are SEMO Circle Apartments and Orange Grove Apartments. Both projects are about 20 units per acre. Next slide. This slide has images of elevation plans for Anton Arcade Apartments and a mutual housing and Habitat for Humanity development proposed at 46th Street and Lang Street. Both projects are about 30 dwelling units per acre. As you can see, there is not a noticeable difference between these 2 density types. Next slide, please. In addition to providing enough appropriately zoned land, the county must also ensure that it is providing sites appropriate for lower income development in high opportunity areas. This is a requirement of AB 686, which mandates cities and counties to affirmatively further fair housing. To meet this requirement, the county must take action to ensure sites identified to meet the lower income RHNA obligation are not concentrated in areas of high segregation and poverty, and to identify sites in high opportunity areas. Here's a map of Sacramento County, which depicts the opportunity areas. The darker blue indicates a higher resource area, the lighter blue depicts moderate resource areas, and the green or yellow depict low resource areas and areas with high segregation and poverty. You'll notice that communities like East Arden Arcade, Carmichael, and Fair Oaks have some darker blue or high or moderate resource areas, while communities like North Highlands and South Sacramento have more green and yellow or low resource areas. You'll also see that this map shows rural areas like Cosumnes and Southeast area as being high resource. However, as these are rural areas with less access to transportation, infrastructure, employment centers, and other amenities, they would not be good candidates for high density zones. Next slide. Again, I'd like to take a break here and ask if you have any questions on Sacramento County's projected housing needs and our strategy for meeting those needs.
We did receive one question about rezoning light commercial sites, and we're not necessarily going to be rezoning light commercial sites because in our current zoning code, they are allowed to be developed with multifamily residential, and we've actually included programs which make it easier to develop them for those. And then I think the other question is light industrial. If there's a light industrial site that looks like it would meet that, then we would be rezoning that. But I think we're a little bit cautious about the light industrial sites because they can be in areas which we would not consider to be as close to services as we would like. We anticipate that the draft sites inventory is going to be available when we release our draft document, which will be in approximately December. High density corridors is another question. So what we are meaning by that is we're looking for areas which are larger roadways in the county, which have access to the services or a close proximity to services already, and also are on transportation lines such as bus services or light rail for the county. Yes, we have another question. Are you looking to ensure opportunities throughout the county and not divesting in low resource areas? Yes, we are actively looking throughout the county for sites, as was mentioned by Kate in the map. So yeah, we are actively looking along bus sites in like Carmichael, Fair Oaks, and Orangevale. And then there's another question about what are you doing about identifying sites for emergency shelters and transitional housing? So we are, as part of our inventory, looking to identify those sites so that they are available. And I think in our previous element, we had them primarily identified on commercial and industrial sites. But with this element, we are looking to amend the zoning code so that they would be allowed throughout the residential zones of the county, consistent with state law. And if I missed anything on that one, Kate, do you want to follow up on that?
I think you nailed it. Like you said, GC and M1, which were commercial and industrial, is what we identified in the previous housing element, but we are making some changes to our zoning code to be more flexible for certain types of emergency housing. Awesome responses. Thank you, Leanne. Okay, thanks all. Let's move to the next slide. Next, we'll cover several key housing element policy topics. We have several polls set up to get your feedback on these topics. Next slide. Sacramento County's Housing Action Plan chapter emphasizes 7 goals that collectively address the availability of, affordability of, condition of, and access to housing. Each goal has its own set of policies and programs needed to achieve that goal. Goal 1 is providing an adequate supply of land for housing. Goal 2 is reducing constraints to housing production. Goal 3 is preserving existing housing in neighborhoods. Goal 4 is improving housing opportunities and conditions for special needs groups. Goal 5 is providing and maintaining housing affordability. Goal 6 is promoting the efficient use of energy in residences. And Goal 7 is promoting and affirmatively furthering fair housing opportunities for Sacramento County residents. Today, we will focus on 3 key policy areas. However, the draft Housing Action Plan chapter is available on the county's Housing Element Update website for your review. So if you are interested in the full list of policies and actions that the county is proposing, please check it out. Next slide. For today's workshop, we'll be focusing on 3 topics that we've identified as key to our overall housing element strategy. These are the Affordable Housing Ordinance, tenant protections, and missing middle housing and accessory dwelling units, or ADUs. Next slide. In California, there are 2 common types of affordable housing requirements that cities and counties use to provide affordable housing. One type is known as inclusionary housing, or sometimes inclusionary zoning. Inclusionary housing ordinances require new residential developments to include a certain percentage of affordable units. Per state law, cities and counties must include alternative ways to comply, such as through land donation or in lieu fees. Another type is known as affordable housing impact fees, which must be paid on each new market rate unit. The fees are then collected and distributed to affordable housing developers to build affordable housing. Next slide. The county adopted its current affordable housing ordinance in 2014. It set an affordable housing impact fee for each market rate unit. This fee is updated annually based on the construction cost index, and the current fee is $2.92 per habitable square foot of each new market rate unit. The county collects these fees and distributes them to the Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency, or SHRA, to fund new affordable housing developments. The current available balance is $1.8 million. Next slide. During the outreach that we've conducted so far, we've heard from housing advocates who are concerned that the current ordinance is not producing affordable housing at the expected rate. We've also heard from others in the development community who are concerned that an increased fee would impact the feasibility of building market rate housing. We've received mixed feedback when we've asked whether the county should consider a stronger inclusionary housing component. Based on this feedback, we've developed a draft program on the next slide. Next slide, please. This is the first draft program that we'll be asking for your feedback on today. The Affordable Housing Ordinance Amendment Program says that the county will perform an evaluation of the effectiveness of the Affordable Housing Ordinance by 2023 to determine if it is building affordable housing at the rate anticipated at the time of adoption, 10%. The county will also pursue an economic feasibility study to guide any decision to include it, to guide any decision to include an inclusionary housing component. Based on the outcome of the evaluation and study, the county will consider amendments to the Affordable Housing Ordinance to increase the amount of affordable housing units built in the county. The county will also amend the Affordable Housing Ordinance to modify the owner-builder exemption. This program requires several key things. First, it requires the county to address the concerns of housing advocates by evaluating the current Affordable Housing Ordinance by 2023. We picked the year 2023 because it gives county staff sufficient time after housing element adoption and the rezone. Second, it requires the county to address the concerns of the development community by conducting an economic feasibility study to guide the decision to amend the program, especially if the proposed amendments will encourage inclusionary housing over a fee option. Next slide. Do you have any questions on topic 1, the Affordable Housing Ordinance, or the proposed program to amend the ordinance? We'll pause here. Okay, we are getting a couple of questions, but they look like ones that we'll be able to answer in the Q&A box itself. So keep an eye out for answers to those questions in the Q&A box. And we'll
Those
go
answers should be coming shortly. I'm currently working on them.
Thank you, Leanne. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So next, we'd like to get your feedback on the proposed program with another poll. Here's Christy.
Yeah, thank you. So now we're going to get your feedback on the proposed programs with some poll questions. If you're watching a recording of this presentation or joining us by phone, again, please fill out the survey located on the Housing Element website. Question number 1 asks, do you support the county considering changes to the Affordable Housing Ordinance? You can answer with yes, support, no, do not support, keep the ordinance the same, or neutral or no opinion. And the second question is, do you think the proposed timing of 2023 is appropriate? You can respond with yes, 2023 is the right time. No, it should happen sooner. No, it should happen later. Or last, neutral or no opinion. And just a reminder to hit the submit button below on the polling window so we can get your answers. And I'll go ahead and pause to wait for answers to come in. Let's do like a 10-second warning just to get all the answers. And just a reminder to hit submit on the bottom as well once you select your answers. I actually lost the poll results.
I have them, Christy, if you want me to read them.
Yeah, if you can. I don't know. I was trying to minimize the chat and it went with it.
It went away.
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. So when asked, do you support the county considering changes to the ordinance? 57% of you said yes, support. 43% of you said neutral or no opinion, and 0% of you said no, do not support. So pretty clear answers there. The second question, do you think the proposed timing of 2023 is appropriate? 14% of you said yes, 2023 is the right time. 57% of you said no, it should happen sooner. 0% said no, it should happen later. And 29% were neutral or no opinion. Awesome. Okay, thanks everybody, and thanks Christy. The next topic that we'd like to discuss with you are tenant protections. Rents have been increasing in Sacramento County, and between 2015 and 2020 across the county, percentage increases in rents have ranged from 21% in Antelope to 34% in South Sacramento. Current estimates show that about 33,000 renter households, or 14% of renter households, experienced a COVID-related job loss in Sacramento County. Those numbers include the incorporated cities. So this means that the threat of eviction is rising. Next slide. In response to the coronavirus pandemic, the California legislature passed the COVID-19 Tenant Relief Act of 2020. This is a statewide law that imposes a moratorium on evictions for failure to pay rent because of COVID-related impacts until January 31st, 2021. In case you need additional information on the statewide moratorium, we've included a couple of resources on the slide, including the California Department of Real Estate website and the Renters Helpline website and phone number. The Renters Helpline is a free telephone and web-based resource that provides dispute resolution and fair housing services to residents in a housing crisis or dispute. To reach the Renters Helpline, you can call them at 916-389-7877, or you can visit their website at www.rentershelpline.org. Next slide. In light of the coronavirus pandemic, the county has prepared the proposed tenant protection program shown on the slide. This program states that the county will study just cause eviction ordinances or other programs to help keep precariously housed tenants in their homes and present findings and recommendations to the Board of Supervisors. We feel that this program is especially important given the impact of the coronavirus pandemic on renters in Sacramento County. Next slide, please. Does anybody have any questions on topic number 2 or on the proposed tenant protection program? And again, we'll pause here for just a moment. Okay, we are getting some questions in the Q&A. Some of those will be responded to via the Q&A box, so look for written responses. We got a question asking when the evaluation of existing housing element programs will be done. So that's for our existing housing element. We've actually completed that evaluation. That was done a little earlier in the project, so that to kind of give us information on the need for new programs. So we have completed that evaluation already.
And I think we have another question about what's the completion date for adopting or studying a just cause eviction ordinance. And so the date we have for that is 2023. And the reason for that is because we recognize that it needs to be done. But the other thing is that given our current workload and the other items that are in the programs and policies for our housing element, that is what we assumed would be a reasonable timeline to complete that. And then we do have a question about, is this proposed to be an actual part of the policies and programs of the housing element? I think they're also talking about the just cause eviction. And yes, that is a part of the programs and policies of our housing element. Let's see. We do have a question about, and I think this goes again to the question about the study and recommendation. So again, our timeline for that is 2023. And yes, I think we do intend to study it and obviously look at the best practices and definitely get as much input as we can on that. And then one of the question is, how do proposed tenant protections works with landlords who have mortgages to pay? I think that there is obviously the state program that is in place until after February 1st. And then the other thing that I would say is that Sacramento County does participate in the Renters Helpline. And that is a group that is intended to answer questions and help tenants work with their landlords. So that is an option that is also available to everybody. And I believe that that is largely it for right now. So thank you for everybody who submitted questions about our tenant protections.
Great, thank you, Leanne. And thanks everybody for some good questions. Feel free to continue to use that Q&A box. But we're gonna move to our next polling exercise. So I'll pass it over to Christy.
Yeah, and you're actually going to use the Q&A box for these questions as well. Anyways, so we have a few polling questions related to the tenant protection program. As a reminder, again, if you're watching this recording or joining us by phone, go to the website for the survey to fill out there. Question number 1 is, do you support the county adopting a just cause eviction ordinance? You can answer with yes, support, no, do not support, or neutral, or no opinion. And the second question is open-ended. So please post your response in the Q&A box. We'd like to know, are there other programs the county should consider implementing to ensure tenant protections? That one might take a little longer, but we're going to go ahead and pause for a little bit and let you guys respond. Again, as a reminder, when you're done, go ahead and hit the submit button on the bottom of the polling window. I'm going to go ahead and give a 30-second warning for the poll, and please keep sending ideas. And again, any open-ended stuff, go ahead and put it in the chat or in the Q&A box, please. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share the poll results. The first question is, do you support the county adopting a just cause eviction ordinance? And 91% say yes, support, and 9% say neutral or no opinion. And then the second question, which is open-ended, so give me a second, but are there other programs the county should consider implementing to ensure tenant protections? So I saw a comment about, oops. They moved. Sorry, Zoom NIMBY here.
There were a couple.
There were, I apologize, and I lost them.
It's okay. I saw one about supporting affordable housing developers and building more affordable housing, adopting our own emergency eviction ordinance to help protect tenants.
Also provide support for tenants who are struggling because of COVID-related income losses and health impacts. Great comments. Yeah, I think they're great. We'll definitely take them in and review them when moving forward. So I appreciate all the comments on that.
Awesome. Thank you, Christy. Did we read the results of question 1?
Yes, there was 91% that supported it and 9% that did not support it.
Awesome.
Or I'm sorry, neutral. There was 0% that said no.
Oh.
9% neutral, yeah.
Thank you, sorry. Okay, let's go on to the next slide, which is topic number 3. The last topic that we'd like to cover today. It's missing middle housing and accessory dwelling units, also known as ADUs. Missing middle housing refers to house-scale buildings with multiple units, such as duplexes, triplexes, courtyard apartments, and townhomes. Missing middle housing is also referred to as naturally occurring affordable housing because these product types tend to be affordable for moderate income households because of their design. One key benefit of missing middle housing is that it can encourage diverse and economically integrated neighborhoods. The image on the slide depicts the range of what we consider to be missing middle, from less dense product types like duplexes to more dense product types like townhomes. Next slide, please. ADUs are another housing type that could be affordable to moderate or even lower income level households. ADUs are also referred to as second units, in-laws, casitas, or granny flats. There have been several changes to state law recently, which make it easier and cheaper to build ADUs. Consistent with state law, the county now exempts ADUs that are 850 square feet or less, and ADUs with multiple bedrooms that are 1,000 square feet or less from county impact fees. In December of 2020, the county staff will ask the Board of Supervisors to consider an ordinance to allow ADUs in even more zoning districts. Next slide, please. The county has developed a program to further streamline ADUs. The proposed program states that the county will accelerate production of ADUs by providing a complete set of construction drawings consisting of architectural renderings, structural, mechanical, plumbing, and electrical plans for 3 different sized ADUs. The Office of Planning and Environmental Review will work with the Office of Development and Code Services, Building Permits and Inspections, to identify a process for utilizing these construction drawings, thereby saving time and applicant costs during the plan check process. Next slide, please. Before we start our next polling exercise, does anyone have any questions on topic 3 or the proposed program for ADU streamlining?
Hi, we have one comment that we'll answer live, and that was that the county should consider a program to provide loans for building ADUs that would be forgivable if the owner agrees to keep them affordable. And I want to say we currently don't have that in place, but it is something that we have looked at. And if it is something that we can do in the future, I think there would be interest. So thank you for that comment. And then we have another comment as to whether or not ADUs include tiny homes on wheels. And ADUs are actually slightly different than that. I think we do have a program where we are going to specifically address tiny homes, but ADUs are typically not on wheels. They're more of either a stick-built or a manufactured type home. So no, not tiny homes on wheels, but we do have a program where we're going to explore tiny homes. So thank you. I think that's all of them. So thank you, Kate.
Thanks, Leanne. Great. Perfect. So let's go ahead and get your feedback on topic 3 with a couple of polling questions. Take it away, Christy.
Thank you. So great news, it's the last poll, but we want to hear your feedback on this topic 3. The first question asks, would you be supportive of allowing a variety of missing middle housing types in your neighborhood? And you can respond with yes, support, no, do not support, or last, neutral or no opinion. The second question asks, are you interested in building an ADU on your property? And you can respond with yes, absolutely, possibly yes, probably not, or no, never. And the third question, respond to this third question only if you responded yes or possibly yes to wanting an ADU on your property. And that third question asks, if so, would you be interested in a pre-approved construction drawings? You can respond with possibly yes, probably not, or no, never. Again, once you select your answers, go ahead and hit the submit button on the bottom of the polling window. And we'll go ahead and just wait for a few. So we do a 30-second warning and go ahead again, select your answers and then hit submit on the bottom so we can get everyone's responses. That'd be great. Okay, the poll results. So with the first question, would you be supportive of allowing a variety of missing middle housing types in your neighborhood? 91% said yes, support, and 9% said neutral or no opinion. And are you interested in building an ADU on your property? 36% said yes, absolutely. 36 said possibly yes, and 27% say probably not. So of the yeses, would you be interested in the pre-approved construction drawing? 55% said yes, absolutely. 27% said possibly yes. 18% said probably not. And 0% said no or never. Thank you so much for your guys' input.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Christy. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide. Okay, the county's housing element update must be certified by the state by May 2021. In order to meet this deadline, we began public outreach in spring of 2020. We went before the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors for workshops during the summer and fall of 2020. We began our second round of outreach in October, and we are currently preparing a public draft of the element, which we will publish to our website in December. We will then submit the draft element to state HCD for their review before taking it back to our hearing bodies for final approval. Next slide, please. We have several ways for you to participate in the housing element update. If you'd like to stay informed of our progress, please sign up for our email list using the link on the slide. And that's bit.ly/SacCounty.gov/delivery. You can also check out our website at bit.ly/SacCounty Housing Element, where we have videos of previous presentations, surveys, and other resources. If you have questions or you would like to provide additional feedback, you can email us at housingelement@saccounty.net. If you are a member of a community-based organization and you are interested in hosting us at one of your upcoming meetings to provide a presentation and receive feedback, please reach out to us. Next slide, please. So that concludes our presentation. I want to thank you for taking the time to learn about the housing element update and to provide us with your feedback. We will hold on for a couple of moments to do a final Q&A. However, I wanted to take a second before we did that to talk a little bit about the gift card winners. Christy, do we have some winners picked out?
Yeah, we have picked out based on the random assortment that we had and based on the attendance. So I appreciate everyone being able to do that and registering. So we do have the opportunity for 3 gift cards. And the winners that we have are, and I'll reach out to you guys to confirm that your email, I'm assuming it's correct, but and then we'll coordinate on how to get those to you. But the winners that we have is Rachel C., Robert Van Cleef, and Jessica Candela. So I will reach out to you guys on here, just confirm your emails. But thank you.
Great, thank you, Christy. If you have any additional questions, please submit them using the Q&A box. And we'll hold off closing out for a couple of minutes just to make sure that we get all of the questions and any last comments.
So I think we do have one comment about putting the links in the chat so that people can click on them. Yes, we will definitely be doing that momentarily here so that everybody can see that. Just give me a minute and I'll put them in.
Awesome, thank you, Leanne.
It looks like we do have a question about improving access to housing for people experiencing homelessness. And I think we'll give an attempt to answer that live for you. And I think We do have programs which we are including in our housing element to address homelessness, but largely what we are doing is the county has a plan to end homelessness, and so we are largely relying on that. And then we're taking the thoughts that are in that and we are putting them into programs. And this is one area where we are coordinating with the city of Sacramento so that our programs are in fact very similar to each other. And Kate, if you wanted to clarify on that, I would be happy to get your feedback on that.
Absolutely. No, that's all correct, Leanne. I would just say it's the not the plan to end homelessness, but it's called the Sacramento County Homeless Plan. That was adopted, gosh, I want to say December 2018. And it highlights 6 key solution areas. And so, like Leanne was saying, we are deferring to the county homeless plan. And we've used the 6 key solution areas and put them as policies in our housing element. And we're working closely with DHA, DHS, and the Sacramento County Homeless Initiatives Director, Cindy Kavanaugh, to build support for those policy or solution areas within the housing element so that, again, we're doing our best to support that document and those key solution areas that were identified based on the previous work that they did. Leanne, did we have any other questions that we wanted to answer live? I'm seeing some questions about the draft housing element.
Right.
Hoping, yeah.
Yeah. We don't have time set for public meetings on the draft housing element yet. That should be forthcoming in the future. And yes, people will get the opportunity to review a complete set of the draft housing element. And I would say from the time it's released until the time it's adopted by the Board of Supervisors, people will have the opportunity to provide comments on that.
And I think, Leanne, you had mentioned this earlier, but we are aiming to have a draft available on our website in December for people to review. And again, that's before we take the draft to HCD. So yes, opportunity to comment prior to HCD seeing that first draft.
Yep, and I think there's another question about will the county commit to specific programs and policies within the housing element? Yes, when you look at our chapter and then you look at our draft programs that we have in there, we do have a time frame and we do have the responsible group or agency that will be implementing those. So you should be able to tell which group within the county, like if it's planning and environmental review or a different group that will be working on completing those particular programs.
So we got clarification that the question about whether we'll commit to programs in our housing element was specific to our programs around homelessness. And we do have some programs, again, in support of the county homeless plan. And those are very direct. You can see them in our draft housing action plan chapter, which again is available on our website. And they do list very clearly action steps, like making sure that that county homeless plan is revised every 5 years, and making sure that we are collecting metrics to report on the efficacy of the actions within the homeless plan annually. So there are some clear programs and policies within the draft chapter around homelessness that we are committing to. So please feel free to check that out on our website. Thank you. Okay, thanks again so much for taking the time to provide us with feedback and learn about the housing element. We really appreciate you taking the time. It really makes the document stronger when we have your input. We are going to keep this webinar open for another 3 minutes or so if you have any final questions or comments that you want to post to the Q&A. Otherwise, you are more than welcome to leave the webinar, and thank you again for all of your help. Yeah, and I do have the numbers for the APR. Do you want me to message them to you?
Yes, please.
All right, we're signing off. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great rest of your afternoon.